Hey everyone, Chris here, and in this video I'm going to talk about how to make long turbo rides more bearable. So we've just coming out of winter here in the UK and it's been pretty icy, and so normally I don't really ride much. I do my structured workouts on the turbo and my long workouts outside, but it's literally just been icy for like 6 weeks, and so I've been having to do 2 and 3 and longer workouts on the turbo, and it's unpleasant because I really don't like riding on the turbo for a long period of time. I find it uncomfortable, and so I've really been dialing in how to do these 3+ hour rides, and I think I've got 10 points here that I think if you apply at home you will find will make your riding more comfortable as well. So number one, and this really depends on the aims of your ride, but I really like just switching up the positions. So this is my road bike. I've got my clip-on aero bars here, so it's nice being that I can do the hoods, I can sit up on the tops just about, and I can get down on the aero bars. I find that the longer a ride goes on, I normally end up dropping down to the aero bars. I just find that more comfortable, and I try to do like a long format anyway, so I try and do a lot of time on the aero bars, but it's nice being able to switch up positions, and I find that if I have that flexibility, then whenever I get fed up with one position, I can just switch from the hoods to the bars and whatever I'm feeling at the time, and that just makes it a lot more comfortable. Now, if you're just aiming for Ironman and you're thinking, well, I want to spend the whole bike time on the aero bars, then that's not really going to help you, because obviously you want to get as aero as possible. But when you're building up to the longer rides, it can still be useful to be able to switch in and switch out while keeping the power down. Number two is to increase your flexibility, because it's really hard just to maintain and hold one position if you're inflexible, especially if you are trying to do these long rides down on the aero bars really bent over. That's gonna really hurt you if you're not very flexible. I wasn't very flexible. It was super uncomfortable. I've spent literally a year stretching 15 minutes every day, and now I'm finding it's a lot more bearable. Now that's a ton of work, so you would hope I'd got some results out of it, but it is one way. If you're going to increase your bike time, you probably increase your swimming speed as well, because flexibility is super useful there. And if I don't have that flexibility, I really find it tugs the muscles on my back and my lower back really starts to hurt. And that's gone away a little bit since, well, significantly, given that I'm now doing like 3-hour rides, since I did more flexibility. So that's worth considering. The other thing that I would really encourage you, this is like freebie, is try and keep a high cadence. Because again, if you're really going to work those muscles, then if you're spinning at a lower cadence, it's going to fry the muscles quicker. If you're working at higher cadence, it's going to fry your aerobic system quicker. But your aerobic system can recover really well. So if you need to drop the power, you can just let your breath, your heartbeat come back down, and you will feel good. Whereas once you've cooked your legs, they're pretty much cooked the whole time, and the pain starts radiating and I get lower back pain. So if I keep the cadence nice and high, it keeps it all in the aerobic system, doesn't fry the legs as fast. This is good for the turbo, this is good for racing, it's good anytime. A nice high cadence will mean that you are burning aerobic energy rather than frying your legs. Number 3 is have a cafe stop. If I went out and rode outside for 4 hours, I would probably stop in the middle, maybe find a cafe, maybe just climb off the bike and sit down or have a gel or look at the scenery or take a selfie or whatever I'm doing, but I wouldn't stay in that position for the whole 4 hours. Now again, if you're looking at full distance triathlon, you might be thinking, well, I really need to spend the whole 6 hours. But for most triathletes and cyclists, they're going to get off and stop. So why not just plan a cafe stop? It's a great time to recharge any nutrition, because obviously inside is super sweaty and you can quickly work your way through multiple BIDONS if you drink a lot. And so you even need them queued up next to your bike. You need like 4 bottle holders on your bike, or you could just have a cafe stop halfway through and your bottom will thank you. Number 4 is the quality of the turbo trainer. Now, I don't think this is a big issue. I started on the Wiggle Fluid turbo trainer. I've got a review of that elsewhere on the YouTube. And it was pretty comfortable. Well, I don't find any turbo trainers comfortable, but I don't think there's a big difference between this and the Tacx Neo that I've got now. But I think there is some difference. This one, it allows me to rock a little bit more, and it feels a bit more realistic, and I think that may be contributing a little. Now, do I think that's one of the first things you should change? No, because my fluid trainer was like £70 and the Tacx Neo was way more than £70. So in terms of return on investment, by upgrading your trainer to a more expensive trainer, you're not going to get much comfort improvement, but you might get a little bit. So there are better ways to spend your money though, which brings me on to number 5, which is having a big fan. I started off with a little thing. I'll cut some footage of that. It was like £30 on Amazon and it did not cut it at all. Now I've got this £70 big industrial gym fan. It was the same amount as money as my original turbo trainer, and it was totally worth the investment, because before I got this I was drowning in my own sweat, and now it's much better. Now it keeps certainly the sweat off my upper body, keeps a lot of that off. I know a lot of people use a multi-fan setup. That sounds really good. It's too many fans for me to bother to put in and take away because I don't have a dedicated training space. But that will be really good as well. But do invest in a really nice fan, because that's probably the thing that will make you most comfortable. And also, if you're doing a long ride, then open a door or a window, because it's all good having the fan circulating the air, but if it's circulating the same stuffy air, then that's not going to be the same as letting some fresh air in from outside with a better oxygen content. Number 6 is avoid clothes. I saw that some brand came out with an indoor training jersey. I was like, what even is that? Like, why are you wearing a jersey? It's your own house. You can cycle naked if you want to. Now, I choose not to do that because I like the padding in my cycling shorts, but I'm certainly not wearing a jersey. I've just got my heart rate monitor on and I'm just going to be topless, and I don't understand why people cycle with a jersey on. Now, the biggest reason I have heard is you obviously get the pockets with the jersey, and then you're like, well, where do I put all my stuff? And that is annoying, I'll give you. I need my phone so I can chat on Discord, but luckily my I think it's an iPhone 11. I don't really know what iPhone I have. I think it's an 11, could be a 10, but anyway, it fits into my bottle holder. So I have one beadon on the bike and I put my phone in there, and it holds it in there really well, hasn't fallen out, but it depends on the size of the phone. And then if I've got like gels for my long ride, I just stick a table next to the bike and grab them, and it doesn't really simulate the race because there isn't a table next to me in the race, but it means that I don't have to stuff them into jersey pockets or have jersey pockets, and then if I wear a jersey that I'm then having to wash because it gets super sweaty every time I get on the turbo, when I can just do it in my shorts and nothing else. The one item of clothing that I do find really useful though is a headband, because even though the fan keeps a lot of the sweat off my upper body, I still get it dripping into my eyes and they start to sting. It's pretty unpleasant, especially if you're down in the aero bars, then it just runs down your face and it's not very nice. So I put a headband on. This absorbs a ton of sweat and works fine for the first hour, but then I find it saturates and there's just so much sweat that it keeps running into my face anyway. So now I've gone to a 2 headband system for longer rides, where I'll wear one for like the first hour and a half until it saturates, and then I'll throw this one down onto my nice training mat. Maybe don't do that if you're on the carpet. And I switch to the other headband. And if I was doing a super long ride, like 4 or 5 hours, I would just queue up loads of these headbands so that I could just swap between them. Also on keeping cool, we're at home, most of us have freezers, why not take advantage of that? Get your bidon and just fill it half with water, half with ice, and then the ice will melt as you go and give you nice cool water, and that will really help you keep your core temperature down, because that's one of the difficulties, especially riding inside where it's really hot and sweaty, is avoiding that cardiac drift as your core temperature goes up. How do you keep your heart rate at a sustainable rate? Big fan. Bidons filled with ice are really good for helping that. So number 9 is, how are you going to keep yourself entertained? I do a bunch of stuff. So I've got my big TV in front of me and I put Zwift on that and ride a Zwift route. And then I've got my tablet holder here and I put my tablet in here and I load up a Trainer Road workout. So Trainer Road controls my turbo trainer and that tells me what I'm doing. But I've got an Ant Plus adapter for the computer that's controlling the TV, and I feed that in. It's not controlling the trainer, but it is reading the power data for Zwift, so that I can Zwift and cycle on as well. And then I put my headphones on and I listen to an audiobook. So that's working out quite well. I'm listening to, where are we? Yeah, listening to The Testaments by Margaret Atwood at the moment. And I find that super useful because anytime I'm really suffering, I think to myself, well, I could be a handmaid in Gilead, so life could definitely be worse. So that's a lot of stuff. Like, I appreciate, again, that's a pretty pricey investment. Like, I'm running subscriptions for Trainer Road and Zwift. I've got a computer controlling my TV and a tablet on, and it's a massive technical setup. And I got really bored of it, and I just started watching TV. But I just don't find that as engaging as having Zwift on. And plus I can do Zwift and the audiobook, or music as I get towards the end of the ride and I'm really hurting. Now, I appreciate even that cannot be completely engaging all the time, so it's great to have Discord on my headphones and my phone as well, so that if there's other people from the club, I can chat to them and that helps pass the time. But really having as much engagement as possible, because it just is boring riding inside in a way that it isn't boring outside, because the scenery changes. At least I can make the Zwift scenery changes, hopefully get some XP, get some climbing in, move towards that concept bike. And then, so finally, number 10 is see it like riding outside where you're building up. Like, just because you can ride for 5 hours outside doesn't necessarily mean you can ride for 5 hours inside. But if you couldn't ride for 5 hours outside, you'd do like a 1 hour ride and a 1.5 hour ride, and you would just build up through the whole thing. And treat indoor riding like that, where maybe you don't do a full 4 or 5 hour ride the first time you try it, but you just adapt to the slight differences in indoor training and build up the distance. And you do that every week, then same, just like any other training, we're just getting more comfortable with it over time and build it up slowly. So those are my 10 plus a few bonus tips for having a long indoor ride. If you find that useful, then please hit a thumbs up, and I'd love to hear about your indoor riding experiences. Let me know in the comments. Also, if you want any more videos on psychology, triathlon, cycling, hit the subscribe button, because that's what my channel is all about, and I hope to see you again soon.